Tonight, our next First Minister, Hamza Yusuf, wins the SNP leadership race. He'll be Scotland's first ethnic minority leader and the youngest, describing himself as the luckiest man alive.
I'm forever thankful that my grandparents made the trip from Punjab to Scotland over 60 years ago. They could not have imagined, as I say in their wildest dreams, that 2 generations later, that their grandson would one day be on the cusp of being Scotland's First Minister.
He'll bring a young family to Bute House, and his family were among the first to give their reaction.
We're very, very proud of him and looking at the future, we're very positive as well.
He beat rivals Kate Forbes and Ash Regan after a bruising 5-week campaign. Today, he pledged to unite the party. We have reaction from around the country.
He was okay, so I'm quite happy with that.
Just his track record and other things, I was hoping for maybe one of the others, but
we've been used to Nicola for
quite
years,
some time now,
so yeah, we'll just need to wait and see how he gets on.
I'm in Hamza Yusuf's Pollock constituency, finding out what people here make of his win.
I'm John Makai at Holyrood. This is the STV News at 6. Good evening. Hamza Yusuf is the new leader of the SNP and is set to become Scotland's first ethnic minority First Minister and the youngest. The 37-year-old is the first Muslim to lead a major UK party and will be the 6th First Minister of Scotland. He won the leadership race by a narrow majority, just over 2,000 votes ahead of his nearest rival Kate Forbes. 50,000 SNP members cast their votes, a turnout of 70%. Now, MSPs will have their say, and we should have a new First Minister by tomorrow afternoon. Our political correspondent, Ewan Petrie, has the story of the day.
I therefore declare Hamza Yusuf duly elected as the Scottish National Party leader.
After a bitter battle, a new leader for the SNP. Hamza Yusuf's victory was narrow. After Ash Regan was eliminated in the first round, he defeated Kate Forbes with 52% of the vote. An emotional moment for his family.
I also feel like the luckiest man in the world to be standing here as the leader of the SNP, a party I joined almost 20 years ago and that I love so dearly.
This has been a contest that has, at times, torn the SNP apart. Cabinet colleagues publicly trashing each other's records.
Over the last 5 weeks, we may have been competitors or supporters of different candidates. We are no longer Team Hamza or Team Ash or Team Kate. We are one team, and we will be the team. We will be the generation that delivers independence for Scotland. Where there are divisions to heal, we must do so quickly, because we have a job to do. As a party, we are at our strongest when we are united. And what unites us is our shared goal of delivering independence for our nation.
How do you start by uniting your party and then regaining the trust of the people of Scotland in a Scottish government?
Well, first and foremost, after I've spoken to the media, one of the first meetings I expect to have and would like to have will be with Kate and Ash, because it is important that the party comes together.
That meeting is likely to include discussions around the makeup of his first cabinet.
The members have made their views known, and I respect that. And I hope that every member, no matter who they voted for, can get behind our new leader, which is Hamza Yusuf.
We'll have to have a conversation and see if I get offered a job, and if I do, I'll be the first to let you know. I think it's important to have a bigger tent. It was certainly something that I was going to do as a leader. I think obviously Hamza's spoken about that, so I think that is appropriate, yes.
During the campaign, the SNP's partners in government had threatened to walk away if either Kate Forbes or Ash Regan had emerged the winner. After meeting this afternoon, the Scottish Greens confirmed they will back the new leader.
It's very clear that the Scottish Greens and the SNP, under their new leader, remain committed to the Bute House agreement. it's also really clear that the bold policies that are in that agreement have never been more urgent.
Hamza Yusuf is set to become Scotland's first ethnic minority First Minister, a moment recognised across the political divide.
Clearly it's a very significant personal achievement for him and his family, but my message to him is very clear. He has to abandon his divisive plans for another independence referendum. He claimed during the campaign that he wanted to be the first activist for independence. He has to be the First Minister of the whole of Scotland, and he'll do that if he concentrates on the issues that really affect people right now.
Regardless of politics, I think it's important to pause and reflect on the significant moment for Scotland. To have someone who's now going to be the First Minister of an ethnic minority background is a huge personal achievement, but also a congratulations to his family. And regardless of the politics, people from a South Asian background in particular will be finding a very proud moment at the moment.
It's a huge day, but Scotland faces some massive challenges, and in his previous roles, Hamza Yusuf has shown himself unequal to those tasks. I hope he now steps up to the role of First Minister if he is elected tomorrow.
Watch yourself, guys!
A new era for the SNP is underway. Tomorrow, Hamza Yusuf will be confirmed as Scotland's 6th First Minister. But from the outset, he faces a major challenge to reunite his party and win the support of the wider public. Ewan Petrie, STV News.
Well, our political editor Colin Makai was there for the announcement and joins us now. Colin, what do you make of the result?
Well, it was pretty tight, wasn't it? But you could tell in the room at Murrayfield, as soon as the candidates came in, that big, broad smile that Hamza Yusuf had, that he had won. But having said that, I mean, Kate Forbes had a big smile as well, but I was speaking to her afterwards, and I think that might have been as much relief as anything else. But then you saw Ash Regan's face, and you thought, there's someone who thought she should have done better than the result actually did for her.
So where does this leave the SNP now?
Well, I think Hamza Yusuf is pretty clear that there's plenty of room in his government for the other two candidates. I would be incredibly surprised if there wasn't a space in cabinet for Kate Forbes. I mean, he needs to do that because, you know, given the nature of that vote, 52-48 pretty much in the end, he needs to unite his party, so he needs to bring Kate Forbes in. But I think one of the things that is quite interesting as well, to me anyway, is that, you know, Hamza Yusuf got great support from the parliamentarians, from the MSPs and the MPs, but then it was so tight when it came to the party. There's a bit of a mismatch there, isn't there?
So what happens now?
Well, tomorrow afternoon the MSPs will vote for the next First Minister. It will be Hamza Yusuf because that Green Deal is intact in the Scottish Government. So if you add together the SNP and the Green MSPs, that is a majority. So he will be elected Scotland's first, their youngest First Minister and the first Muslim First Minister as well.
So what are his first priorities?
Well, I think he has to start shaping his government. You know, he's just lost, the SNP government has just lost its two biggest figures in John Swinney and Nicola Sturgeon. So it's going to be really difficult reshaping his government. He's going to have the experience, I think, of someone like Shona Robison, who might end up being Deputy First Minister. He singled her out in his speech today. He also singled out Neil Gray, his campaign manager. I would be surprised if he wasn't a big figure in that government too.
Colin, for the moment, thank you. So who is the man behind the persona? Well, Hamza Yusuf is, as we heard Colin say, the first Muslim to lead a political party in the UK. Indeed, he's about to become First Minister during Ramadan. His dad, originally from Pakistan, emigrated to Scotland in the 1960s. His mum was born in Kenya. He talked about his family in his acceptance speech this afternoon and what becoming First Minister means to them. We've been looking at his life.
I, Hamza Haroon Yusuf.
I, Hamza Haroon Yusuf.
Hamza Yusuf has always been proud of his past. His grandfather came from Punjab to Clydebank. Now his grandson is Scotland's first Muslim First Minister.
As immigrants to this country who knew barely a word of English, they could not have imagined in their wildest dreams that their grandson would one day be on the cusp of being the next First Minister of Scotland. We should all take pride in the fact that today we have sent a clear message that your colour of skin or indeed your faith is not a barrier to leading the country that we all call home.
Very, very proud of him. Looking at the future, we're very positive as well, because what he'll bring to his leadership. I think he'll be a very unique leader because of his personality and the way he is, and his background.
Is he still going to have time to listen to his mum?
Well, he better. He better. I'm still his mum, you know. I can clip him around the ear hole when he.
At 37, Hamza Yusuf is the youngest First Minister and will be the first with a young family in Bute House. He served his political apprenticeship working for Alex Salmond and Nicola Sturgeon before being first elected to Parliament in 2011. His interest in politics began at Hutcheson's in Glasgow, a fee-paying school, before going on to study at Glasgow University, where he got involved in campaigning against racism.
We want justice, the people want justice for Sarjeet Singh Chokha and the family.
Today is a tremendous achievement to consider the fact that somebody who is an Asian and a Muslim being elected to lead this country would have been inconceivable to our parents' generation. But that doesn't blind Hamza to the fact that discrimination still exists.
I know Hamza through youth clubs that we attended when we were wee. He's a very fun person to be around. He's always up for a joke, a laugh, or pranks that we pull on each other as mates.
Just a year after becoming an MSP, he got his first ministerial job on external affairs, welcoming hundreds of Syrian refugees.
People in Scotland will understand that. They'll open their hearts and they'll open their communities to the most vulnerable of the most vulnerable.
And from there it was ever upwards in government. As Transport Minister, he was involved in the new Fourth Crossing. At the start of lockdown, he was Justice Secretary. By the end of the COVID pandemic, he was Health Secretary, one of the hardest jobs in the Scottish Government at the best of times. And this was far from the best of times.
And is the Cabinet Secretary going to set out a clear and meaningful plan ahead of winter to deal with these shocking waiting times? And if he can't or he won't, will he resign?
As Health Minister, we've got record high waiting times. What makes you think you can do a better job as First Minister?
Hello. Hi there. The biggest achievement in government has undoubtedly been the NHS pay deal, preventing nurses, paramedics and others going on strike in Scotland.
For him to navigate the health service the way he has and to deliver what has been a UK-wide challenge in terms of pay is a measure of the man, his ability to bring people together, to be willing to compromise and negotiate.
Fist bumps.
Hamza Yusuf has been seen as the continuity candidate, but in reality that downplays the scale of the challenges facing the new First Minister to rebuild confidence in the SNP and the Scottish Government.
The next First Minister will have no easy task ahead, with an in-tray already stuffed full. Whether it's delivering independence, helping with the cost of living or fixing the NHS, an issue he, as the current Health Secretary, knows all too well. He'll now lead the entire country, but what do those in the place he represents as a local MSP make of today's news? Well, our political reporter Laura Alderman is in Govan. That's part of the Glasgow Pollock constituency for us tonight. And Laura, what do people there make of it?
Well, Hamza Yusuf has held this seat representing the people of Pollock since 2016, and this constituency actually stands shoulder to shoulder with Nicola Sturgeon's Glasgow Southside constituency. It begins only just a couple of hundred metres behind me. When we travelled around the country a few weeks ago, visiting the three constituents of the three candidates to replace Nicola Sturgeon, people here in Pollock painted a mixed picture of their MSP. Some were fully backing him, saying he was the right person for the job, whereas others felt a sense of disconnect. They felt like he didn't represent them, and they said that was in part because he doesn't live in the area. He lives just under 100 miles away in Broughty Ferry, but now of course he is set to govern for the entire country. So we started off today breaking that news to shoppers on Buchanan Street. In the shadow of the inaugural First Minister, news of the next hit the streets of Glasgow. Hamza Yusuf has been elected as the new leader of the SNP. What's your reaction to that?
I think it's a good thing. I've got a feeling that if a lot of people hadn't left Alaba, Kate Forbes might be in by now.
He seems okay. That's the one I wanted. The other ones are just, I don't know. One talking too much about her faith, and the other one not saying enough, I don't think. So he was okay.
Quite surprised, but we'll see what he can do. We've been used to Nicola for quite years, some time now, so yes. Yeah, we'll just need to wait and see how he gets on.
Ash.
Did you like her?
Yeah, I liked her. I think she would have done something.
Just his track record and other things. I was hoping for maybe one of the others, but not so sure.
You were hoping for one of the other two?
Yeah, possibly. Yeah.
Please do right by the people. That's all we can ask for.
It's as simple as that. Good luck to you.
Students in Hamza Yusuf's Pollock constituency have been watching the often fiery 5-week leadership debate closely.
I think he's got big shoes to fill. He's stepping into quite a big job, so it will be difficult for him. But yeah, it'll be interesting. We'll see how it goes.
He claims that it was like more about childcare and like supporting families like that. I think that's like a really big deal.
I think it's going to be a good change for Scotland, obviously, kind of having more ethnic minorities getting the weight they should have as well, with obviously the Prime Minister and now him. So I think that's good to kind of make more of a change throughout both Scotland and Britain, just kind of who's going to be actually leading the country. So I think that's interesting.
As the first person from a minority ethnic background to hold the post, it's being hailed as a huge progressive step forward by some.
It's amazing to now see that, you know, my older brother effectively has become the First Minister. I mean, is this what people feel like when they see somebody that looks like them and shares the same values and background as them? I suppose this is what real representation feels like.
From now on, Hamza Yusuf won't just be answerable to the people of Pollock, but the whole country, as he prepares to take the keys to Bute House. Laura Alderman, STV News, Govan.
Well, that's the view from the local electorate in Glasgow Pollock, and we've been hearing views at Holyrood. But what about Westminster? Well, let's cross live to Westminster editor Catherine Sampson. And Catherine, any reaction from the Prime Minister yet?
Well, not directly yet, but that's because we'd expect to hear from Rishi Sunak after Hamza Yusuf is officially sworn in tomorrow, and we'd expect there also to be a phone call between the pair then. That will, of course, be the first British Asian Prime Minister speaking to the first British Asian First Minister of Scotland, so quite a moment. Now, Rishi Sunak's spokesperson did say this afternoon he was looking forward to working with Mr Yusuf in the future, but it was the Levelling Up Secretary, Michael Gove, who we actually heard reacting to the news today for the UK government. In the chamber earlier, he couldn't resist drawing attention to just how close that vote was between Hamza Yusuf and Kate Forbes. 52-48, the same split as the Brexit result back in 2016.
Can I, on behalf of the government, extend my congratulations to Hamza Yusuf on his election as leader of the Scottish National Party, and we look forward to working with him in the future. It has been noted that he won by the margin of 52% to 48%. So I hope that SNP colleagues will agree there is no need for another vote.
Well, we've already seen a pretty familiar dance here today, with number 10 being asked to respond to Hamza Yusuf's comments about pushing for a Section 30 order, pushing for another independence vote, and replying they have a well-established position on that and the Prime Minister has other priorities. Now, another potential flashpoint coming down the road in the relationship between new First Minister and Prime Minister is what happens with the UK's decision to block Holyrood's gender recognition reforms. Now, today, Hamza Yusuf said his starting principle will be to challenge that decision. He's only got weeks left to decide if he wants to challenge that in the courts. Number 10, while insisting that what they're doing is proportionate and right, are waiting to see what action he may take there. Now, from Labour's point of view, we heard Keir Starmer today. He tweeted saying this was a really significant moment for Scotland, the First Minister from minority ethnic backgrounds. But fair to say, Labour are feeling pretty hopeful at the moment. They see a real opportunity here in Scotland for them. They don't see Hamza Yusuf as being the kind of opponent of the same calibre as Nicola Sturgeon.
Catherine at Westminster, thank you. Well, I'll be back later in the programme with more from Holyrood. But for the moment, I'll hand you over to Kellyanne for the rest of the day's news.
Thanks very much, John. OK, let's take a look at some of the other stories across Scotland now. And 4 members of Cricket Scotland's Equality, Diversity and Inclusion Board have resigned over the handling of racism allegations. Last year, an independent inquiry found more than 400 examples demonstrating the organisation to be institutionally racist. Cricket Scotland says significant progress has been made, but it's been accused of being disconnected from reality. The spring COVID booster programme is getting underway for Scots in at-risk groups. Residents in care homes are receiving an additional dose of the vaccine. People aged 75 and over will be offered the jab from the 11th of April. Those aged 5 and over with a weakened immune system can get it from the 24th of April. And almost 700,000 Scottish households claiming means-tested benefits will receive the first part of their £900 cost of living payment from the UK government next month. The Department for Work and Pensions says the first instalment of £301 will be made automatically to eligible Scots between the 25th of April and the 17th of May. OK, let's take a look at football news now. And Scotland boss Steve Clarke says his players have to push themselves to compete against the top teams in the world as they prepare to welcome Spain to Hampden. Lyndon Dykes is ready to lead the line for the European Championship qualifier after Che Adams was injured in the victory over Cyprus. Here's Jamie Borthwick.
They've made a winning start on the road to the Euros, but match 2 will pitch Scotland against one of the top sides in international football. They're being urged to embrace the challenge.
We want to be competitive against the top teams. We've got promotion to Nations League A, so we know that in that group we're going to come up against 3 top quality teams. So we're trying to push the players to get better, and the more you play against top quality opposition, the better you should get. We've shown in the past that we're capable of getting results against good teams.
I want to start every game that I come to Scotland. I've done well, I think, since I've come in. Obviously, we've got great competition. We've got, obviously, Shankland's came in now. He's had a great season so far, and hopefully that keeps going on with him scoring goals. But if I get the nod in the night, I'm going to give all my best.
A priori es un partido muy difícil.
Tomorrow we have a hard game against a very important team. Scotland are a very strong rival. They've got a good team, and they've evolved over the years. Their team plays all over in different leagues, mostly in the Premier League, so they're all at top level. They're all some top players, so yeah, we're looking forward to the challenge.
With the top 2 teams in Group A qualifying for next year's Euros, a positive result tomorrow would set Scotland up very well for the rest of the campaign. Jamie Borthwick, STV News.
And finally for me in rugby, Scotland international Stuart Hogg has announced he's retiring after this year's World Cup. After 100 appearances for the national team, he says he doesn't believe his body can achieve the standards he sets himself for much longer. Well, that's the rest of the day's news and sport. Let's return to the main story though. Hamza Yusuf elected as the new SNP leader and set to become Scotland's First Minister. And John is still at Holyrood for us. John.
Kellyanne, thank you. And as you say, a historic day for Scotland. Hamza Yusuf is set to become not only the youngest, but the first Muslim First Minister. Well, the thoughts now of our special correspondent, Bernard Ponsonby. Bernard, you've watched Scottish politics for a while now. What's the significance of today?
Well, you just really mentioned it. We'll have a new First Minister tomorrow. That in itself is historic, but the first Scottish Asian. And across the political spectrum today, warm words for that fact. That says a lot about our Parliament. It says a lot about the kind of country that we are. But you know, the style of government, I think, will change as well. The allegation against Nicola Sturgeon was that it was a bit of a closed shop. Hamza Yusuf has a mandate. One in politics is enough, but it's not an overwhelming and a huge mandate. So in terms of his approach to government, it will be far more collegiate than that of Nicola Sturgeon. And you know, the other key thing is a massive generational shift in our politics. Alex Salmond, the first SNP First Minister, elected in 2007. He came onto the political scene back in the late 1970s. Nicola Sturgeon came onto the political scene in the late 1980s when Hamza Yusuf was still in his school trousers. So that underlines a massive generational shift in the politics of the Scottish Parliament. And then what he has to do is that he has to deal with a whole host of problems. Can he keep his party together? Potentially fractious over the issue of an independence referendum. And the key issue in the short to medium term, can he repair public services, some of which are actually broken? It is a huge task, which will define how the SNP do at the next UK general election in a year and a half's time.
Bernard, thank you. So, Hamza Yusuf is the new leader of the SNP. Tomorrow, he is expected to become the new First Minister of Scotland. Then, the Sturgeon era will truly be over. The Yusuf era is about to begin. From your STV News team at Holyrood and around the country, good night.
And so today I am announcing my intention to step down as First Minister.
I am standing to be your leader and the next First Minister of Scotland.
The SNP has lost its way.
I will build support for independence to new heights.
It's time for change.
There has been quite a lot of challenging rhetoric.
I think it's legitimate to question other people's policy positions.
And I'm delighted to be here today at the culmination of this election contest to choose our new SNP leader. I therefore declare Hamza Yusuf duly elected as the Scottish National Party leader.
We have a lot of work to do and get on with, so I suggest we get on with it.